All right, folks, this is your practice problem video for distance and midpoint on a number line. So let's just go ahead and jump into it. There's not very many problems here, just a few, but it'll give you a good idea of what types of problems will come up with distance and midpoint on a number line. All right, so for number one, I have this very fancy line segment KL on a number line where K is at -9 and L is at 15. So the first part of this question says, what is KL? Remember, whenever they ask you for something like this, without the line on the top, that means they want to know the distance here. Okay, so remember that the formula for distance is the absolute value of endpoint 1 minus endpoint 2. Okay, it does not matter which point you pick to be 1 and which point you pick to be 2. So I typically read from left to right. So I'm going to say K is my first endpoint, -9. It's always a minus sign right here, minus, and then L is 15. Okay, so then I just need to do that subtraction, right? So -9 minus 15 is -24. And then I have to use the absolute value to take the negative sign off. So I get 24. Okay, so that's it. 24 is my answer. That's the distance. Okay, now if you look up at the number line, it doesn't look like 24, right? Because there's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 tick marks. Right, so it definitely doesn't look like 24, but if you notice, the distance between each tick mark is 3 units. Okay, so we want to keep that in mind because we need that a little later. Okay, all right, so let's look at point B right here, part B. All right, part B says, what's the coordinate of the midpoint of KL? So remember, the formula here is we're going to average the two endpoints. So it's endpoint 1 plus endpoint 2 divided by 2. Okay, so here that's -9 plus 15 divided by 2. Right? 15 plus -9 is 6 divided by 2. So I get 3. So this is a location, right? So the midpoint right here is 3 up here at the top. It's that actual location on the number line, which if you look at the picture, it looks like the middle, right? You've got 4 kind of tick marks on the left and 4 tick marks on the right of that. It's right in the middle, okay? Part C and part D is where they get a little bit tricky, okay? So let's take a look at these. This says point C lies between points K and L. So it just means it's somewhere between K and L. I don't know exactly where. I just know it's somewhere between K and L. It says the distance between points K and C is 1/3 of KL, meaning the distance, right? The length of the whole line, okay? So what they want to know is what's the coordinate point of C, okay? So basically what I'm doing here is I'm saying, okay, let me change my color here so we can see this a little better. Basically what I'm saying is if I'm going from K to C, and I'm just going to kind of put it, say it's like, I don't know exactly where it is. Let's say it's like here-ish. This is, again, just an example. I don't know if that's exactly where it is. We want this distance, right, between K and C to be 1/3 of the whole distance here. So we have to figure out where to put C to make this distance between K and C 1/3 of the whole thing. So I think the first step would be to figure out, okay, well, what is that distance, right? What is the distance between K and C, right? So if the whole thing, if the distance of the whole thing is 24, 1/3 of that, right, is, so 1/3 times 24, or you can think of it as 24 divided by 3, that's 8. Now, We want to be careful, right? Because the question is not what is the distance, the question is what is the coordinate point, right? That's what I care about. The coordinate point 8 is way over here, which is definitely more than a third, right? So what we have to do is start at point K, and I want to count 8 spaces, right? Or a distance of 8 from point K. So K, oops, sorry, drew that wrong. Whoop. Okay, so I need to do point K plus 8. That'll give me point C. And I know that point K is at -9. So -9 plus 8 is -1. So -1 is the location, right? And that's my answer. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to erase where I put it up here because I put it at -3. That wasn't quite right. So C should have been at -1, which is like right here-ish. Okay, so again, it doesn't look like 8 spaces, right, because of the way that the tick marks are. But you have to remember that there's smaller tick marks in between the bigger ones. They just don't show them all, okay? All right, part D is a similar type of question. Right, so we're going to use a similar idea. So this says point N lies between C and L. So that means point N is somewhere here. It's somewhere between here and here, but I don't know exactly where it is. Okay, similar idea. It says the distance between points C and N is 3/4 of CL. So N is probably going to be up here somewhere, right? Because I want this distance to be 3/4 of the whole distance from C to L. So I'm going to do the same thing that I just did, okay? But I need to know the distance between C and L first, right? Well, if this distance, let me change this here. If the distance between K and C is 8 and the whole distance is 24, then that means from C to L, I can just subtract those, right? 24 minus 8, and that'll give me the distance that I'm missing, right? So that distance is 16. So I know this distance here from C to L is 16. Okay? So now I'm going to do the same thing that I did up here, right? So I know that CN is 3/4 of CL, which is 16. Okay, so you can plug that into a calculator, or you can simplify the fraction, right? You can do 16 times 3 and then divide it by 4. But what I'm going to do, just to make use of my fractions here, I know that 16, or 4 goes into 16 4 times, right? So then I have 4 times 3, which is 12. Okay, again, 12 is not the location, it is the distance from C to N. So I know that C plus 12 is going to have to give me N, right? And C, we found out the last one is -1, so -1 plus 12 is equal to 11. So point N is right here at 11, okay? So give me a second to pause the video here because I have to clear my screen. There's one more question that's very similar to this. So if you want to pause the video and try that one on your own, you can. But if not, I will see you back here in just a second to try this second problem. All right, you all. So I went ahead and worked these 3 parts of this question out, and I'm just going to talk you through them really quickly. I'm hoping that you paused and tried these yourself, and then are just here to check your answers. But if you needed a little bit more support, wanted to hear me talk you through another one, that's what I'm here for. That's what this is for. So let's look at number 2 here. I have another lovely number line. and a line segment AB. A is at -12 and B is at 8. So the first question is, what is AB? So remember, they're not asking, is it a line segment or a line or array? They're asking, what's the distance? So I'm doing -12 minus 8, which equals -20, and then I have to take the absolute value of that. So the distance between A and B is 20. Part B says, what's the coordinate of the midpoint? And I didn't explain how I found my answer. I kind of showed my work. That's my explanation. But if you were to explain it, you would want to explain it in words the way that I am explaining it to you in this video right here. Okay? So for midpoint, you have to average the two endpoints. So that's -12 plus 8 divided by 2. -12 plus 8 is -4. -4 divided by 2 is -2. So the midpoint, and I put it up here. I put it actually up here on the diagram for you so that you can see it. Here it is, halfway between points A and B. Okay. Last one, point C, is between points A and B. So somewhere between A and B, we don't know exactly where. The distance between points B and C, this is important to note, the distance between points B and C is 1/4 of AB. So we're going to follow a similar pattern, right, or a similar process to what we did on number 1 in this video. So I know that AB, the distance between A and B, is 20, and the distance between B and C is 1/4 of that. So that's what this says right here. So I just plugged 20 in for AB, and then did 20 times 1/4. That's the same as 20 divided by 4, which is 5. Okay, right? Remember that this 5 is not a location, it is a distance. So we have to go back to the question and make sure we answer the question, which we haven't yet, which is, what's the coordinate of point C? Now, here's where, and this is why I changed colors right here, here's where this one is a little bit different than the previous example that I did. Because in the previous example, the point we were looking for was coming from point A. It was coming from the left. It was like, here was my point, my original point, and my other point was like here somewhere. So I would just say, oh, okay, if I know this distance is 5, then I would do this value, A, and add 5 to get this value right here. But this one is a little different because we're starting actually from the right, and we're going in a different direction. We're going to the left. So whenever you go to the left on a number line, you have to subtract, right? When we were going this way to the right, you would add. But since we're going to the left, we're going to subtract. So instead of doing B plus 5 would give me C, that would be going this way, which is not the right way. I'm going to do B minus 5 is C, right? And it's only because I'm going to the left on the number line instead of going to the right. So I have 8 minus 5, which is 3. So C is at the location 3 on the number line. All right, folks, that is it for this practice video. Stay tuned for the next videos on the segment addition postulate and the angle addition postulate. Bye, everybody.